They always say you never see the turning point of your life until it's too late. That was me, Marcus Lane. I used to believe I had it all figured out. I was married to an amazing woman, Isabel, and we were raising our vibrant 5-year-old daughter, Clara. Isabel and I met in college, me in my final year, her in her third. It didn't take long for sparks to fly. Less than a month after she walked the stage with her business degree, we tied the knot. With my degree in computer systems engineering, I landed a promising role at a growing tech company in Portland. Isabel began working at a legal services firm, assisting attorneys with contracts and filings. But 2 years in, she left her job when Clara was born, embracing the role of a full-time mom. Life was beautiful in those early years, simple, fulfilling. Everything changed when Clara entered elementary school. Isabel decided to return to her previous job at the law office. At first, I was supportive. It was her passion, after all. But almost immediately, the changes started. She began dressing far more boldly than she ever had before. Makeup heavier, dresses shorter. Her smile, once soft and warm, became something else, sharper. Our intimate life, once spontaneous and affectionate, turned ice cold. She'd stay late at work often, offering vague explanations. "I'm working on a major case with one of the lead partners," she'd say, brushing off my concerns. "It'll pay off. It's for us, for Clara's future." I wanted to believe her. I needed to believe her. Months before everything imploded, I met her boss, Adrian West, at the firm's annual winter gala. He was charismatic in a manufactured kind of way, polished, smug, condescending, the kind of guy who made you feel like you were somehow beneath him just by existing in the same room. I watched their interactions that night like a hawk. No obvious red flags, no touching or glances that screamed affair. Still, something felt off, and I couldn't shake it. By the time Clara finished her school term in May, our relationship was frayed. That weekend, she was set to stay with my sister and her husband in Seattle, giving Isabel and me time to reconnect. At least, that was the plan. I remember coming home after dropping Clara off. I had prepared dinner, even queued up her favorite film. I imagined us laughing again, sipping wine, maybe finding our way back to each other. But as I walked in, Isabel was already halfway down the stairs, stunning in a form-fitting crimson dress and stilettos, her dark hair styled in voluminous waves. She looked like she belonged on the cover of a fashion magazine. "You look amazing," I said, genuinely surprised. "I didn't know we had reservations." "Let me change quickly. Where are we headed?" She gave me a crooked smirk, one I'd never seen before. "We're not going anywhere," she said flatly. "I'm heading out. You're staying in." I blinked, confused. "Wait, what?" "I have plans." "With Adrian." Her words hit like a slap. "A date?" I asked, unable to keep the disbelief out of my voice. She nodded, without shame. "This isn't temporary, Marcus. We're changing the rules starting tonight. He's picking me up, and we'll be at the Grand Meridian. Don't wait up." I staggered back a step. "If you walk out that door, Isabel, we're done." She didn't hesitate. "No, Marcus, you're not getting it. I'm not leaving you. I'm expanding our marriage. We stay legally bound. You keep your title as husband and father. But I get the freedom to pursue what I need." She added almost offhandedly, "If you make trouble, you'll regret it. You think losing your wife is bad? Try losing your daughter. Permanently." Before I could respond, the doorbell rang. She opened it swiftly, revealing Adrian standing tall in a tailored black coat, his silver cufflinks gleaming in the porch light. "How did he take it?" Adrian asked as he stepped in. Isabel shrugged. "Exactly as expected." I stood there, fists clenched, while Adrian calmly approached. "We should talk, Mr. Lane," he said with a smug smile. "I suggest we keep this civil." "Get out of my house," I growled. "Not a good idea," he said, glancing over his shoulder. A tall, broad-shouldered man stood silently behind him outside. "My driver doesn't take kindly to threats," You might get a punch or two in before he stops you, but by then the cops will be here and you'll be in a cell. I clenched my jaw and sat down, seething. Good, Adrian said smoothly. Now that we're all reasonable, let's talk terms. He didn't mince words. When your wife became my assistant, she signed up for more than clerical duties. We've been involved for about half a year. She's tired of sneaking around. From now on, we're being open about it. You'll stay married. You'll still be Clara's father. But Isabel is mine, intimately. Sometimes at hotels. Sometimes here when you're not around. My blood boiled. I'll divorce her, I spat. He laughed, then leaned forward. You can try. But if you do, I'll ensure you lose everything, your house, your savings. You'll pay alimony. And Clara, you won't see her again. I have the legal firepower to make sure of it. Child endangerment. False accusations. Whatever it takes. I own people in this city, judges, police, even the press. I was paralyzed, and he knew it. He stood, smug. So play along, smile for the neighbors, and accept that this is your new life. As they left, Isabel didn't even look back. I spent that night in a haze of whiskey and rage. Saturday morning came with a splitting headache and an empty house. I wandered through the silence in a daze. No sounds of Clara's laughter, no footsteps from above, no clinking of mugs or pans in the kitchen. Just a hollow quiet that made everything worse. Isabel didn't come home that day, nor Sunday morning. I picked up Clara from my sister's place in the afternoon, forcing myself to act normal. On the drive back, she turned to me, her voice sweet and full of trust. Where's Mommy? My throat tightened. The truth had roared inside me, but I buried it. She had to stay late at work, honey, I said, forcing a smile. She'll be home soon. Clara nodded, but the disappointment on her face hit me harder than anything Adrian had said. That night, I slept in the guest room again. Isabel came home sometime after midnight. I heard the front door open, her heels on the wood floor, her soft humming as she moved about. But she didn't come to me, and I didn't seek her out. Monday morning came. I helped Clara get ready for school, packing her lunch and brushing her hair, while Isabel busied herself in the kitchen like nothing had happened. When it came time to leave, Isabel bent down to kiss Clara goodbye. Then, as if on reflex, she leaned toward me. I turned away. No words, no eye contact. That night, after Clara was asleep, Isabel descended into the basement where I'd retreated most nights. She didn't knock. Are we going to have a problem? She asked, arms crossed. When you say we, I said flatly, are you talking about me not embracing your affair with your boss? Because yes, we have a problem. She didn't flinch. I didn't mean for things to turn out this way. It started innocently just coffee in the mornings. He liked the hazelnut creamer I brought. I bet he did, I replied bitterly. Probably shared some of his own special creamer. Her expression soured. Don't be crude, Marcus. Adrian is a persuasive man. You remember how I used to say I hated oysters? Turns out I just never tried them. He convinced me to give them a chance. Said they were stimulating. Let me guess. First oysters, then the hotel room. She didn't respond, which was answer enough. He offered me a promotion, she said, as if that made it better. I'm earning triple what I used to. We'll have more opportunities, travel, connections. It's a stepping stone. Sure, I muttered. And in the meantime, I just sit here and pretend my wife isn't sleeping with her boss? Isabel hesitated before adding, he even said you could still be with me sexually, I mean. Under conditions. I stared at her, disgusted. Do tell. Only after he's been with me. He says it's important that you know your place. I laughed coldly. So I get to be the pathetic runner-up? That's the generous offer? You need to stop being dramatic, she snapped. This isn't forever. 2 or 3 years. Then he'll move on, and we'll be financially set. You believe that? I asked, my voice low. What if he gets you pregnant? Am I supposed to raise his child too? Her eyes dropped to the floor. Don't tell me he's already brought it up. She nodded slightly. He wants me off birth control in a few weeks. I told him I wanted your support first. Get out, I said. Go sleep upstairs. I don't want to see you. She turned, then stopped at the stairs. I'll be in our bed. But once I stop the pill, you'll only have a short window before you lose access. I didn't answer. After that night, I withdrew even further. I focused on Clara. She was my lifeline and my reason to stay sane. But my mind kept circling back to the same thing. I was being cornered. Divorce wasn't an option. Not with Adrian's threats. Not with what I stood to lose. But I couldn't live like this. I started researching Adrian West. What I found chilled me. The man wasn't bluffing. His influence reached varsity council members, local judges, even a few high-level police contacts. Everyone knew he was untouchable. I met with a family law attorney, hoping for a loophole. Her face was grim. You're not the first person to bring me a story like this about Mr. West, she said. But he's dangerous. If you try to fight this, he'll make good on his threats. There has to be something, I said. Maybe, she said cautiously. If you can get a recording proof that your wife or Adrian explicitly talks about coercion or plans against you, you might have leverage, but even that won't guarantee safety. I left her office feeling more trapped than ever. Later that week, I bought a voice-activated recorder, disguised as a sleek metal pen. Slipped it into Isabel's purse between her actual pens. Then, I waited. That alone wouldn't be enough, so I began exploring darker options. The kind you don't find on Google. I used public computers in libraries to avoid leaving a trail. Late one night, I came across a discussion thread in an obscure forum about marine-based neurotoxins. Tetrodotoxin, dimethylmercury, both fatal in high concentrations, both nearly impossible to trace, and crucially both slow-acting. Their effects could be mistaken for shellfish poisoning or seafood contamination. A few hours' drive from Portland, I found a tiny Eastern import store tucked away in a nondescript strip mall. I drove there wearing a hoodie, sunglasses, and a baseball cap. An elderly man stood behind the counter. I kept my voice low. I need tetrodotoxin and dimethylmercury. He squinted at me for a moment, then gave a slow, knowing nod. Wife troubles? I gave a small, tight smile. Something like that. It'll cost you, he said. 1-800 cash. I handed him 2-0 in small bills. He vanished into the back and returned with a plain brown paper bag, 2 vials, 2 syringes. Careful, he said. Use gloves. Mix it into something she consumes often. Slowly. Not all at once. Back home, I found my method. Isabel always kept a stash of non-dairy creamer bottles in our pantry-onis. She only brought to work occasionally. She was possessive about them, said others at the office might steal them. Now I knew why. It was something she and Adrian shared, their little secret. There were 10 bottles. I took one, carefully injecting a minuscule dose of tetrodotoxin beneath the foil seal. It left no mark. Then the same with dimethylmercury. It took hours, but I did it. One by one, every bottle. 2 weeks later, 1 bottle disappeared from the box. The beginning had begun. When I saw the first bottle gone from the pantry, my pulse spiked. It was working. The plan had taken its first step. Quietly, invisibly. I told myself I'd stop there, that maybe I had made my point. But then came Thursday. Isabel called it sushi night. She said she and Adrian worked late on Thursdays and ordered from some upscale Japanese place. I knew what it really meant. Clara and I had dinner alone, like usual. I tucked her into bed, read her a story, and retreated to the basement where I kept myself half distracted with the television's glow. Isabel came home just before midnight, humming, almost glowing. Without any hesitation, she walked in and said, "You've got a month." "What?" I asked, without turning from the screen. "Adrian wants me off the pill in 4 weeks. If you want to be with me one last time, now's your chance. After that, you know the rule, he goes first." I turned slowly, staring at her like I didn't recognize the woman I had once loved. "Let me get this straight. You're offering me access to my own wife before your boss tries to knock you up?" She smirked. "That's crass, Marcus. But yes, that's the arrangement. And what do I get in return for this bargain? You get to keep your life, your daughter, your job. And one day, when Adrian is done, you get me back. We'll be rich, secure." I stood, walking past her toward the stairs. "You wouldn't recognize loyalty if it slapped you across the face," I muttered. She didn't respond. The following days blurred together. I buried myself in parenting and work while monitoring the remaining bottles of creamer. Each one stood as a quiet monument to a plan already in motion. And each day, I watched Isabel a little more closely. 2 weeks after sushi night, another bottle was missing. She began showing symptoms soon after. It started subtly, fingertips tingling, shortness of breath, a slight pallor to her skin. I pretended not to notice until she brought it up. "My hands feel weird," she said one evening, shaking them out at dinner. "Like they're asleep and I've been short of breath lately." "Maybe it's stress," I said gently. "All the travel, working late. You've been pushing hard." She waved it off. "Nothing's wrong. Adrian says I'm probably just low on iron." I nodded. "Yeah? Maybe." But the toxin was working, attacking her nervous system first, just like the research had said. Another week passed. The bottle count dropped to 8. She must have taken a few more to the office. Her condition worsened. By then, she had noticeable tremors. Her skin was grayish, and she complained of persistent muscle aches. Adrian, too, seemed to be affected. Isabel mentioned he'd called out of work a couple of times due to dizziness and headaches. One Thursday evening, she came home early. I looked up from the kitchen table, surprised. "No sushi tonight?" She rubbed her temples. "Not feeling great. Neither is Adrian. We canceled." "That's too bad," I said, feigning concern. "I thought you were both starting that big project tonight." She narrowed her eyes at me. "Cut the sarcasm. I'm just making conversation." Later that night, I passed the bathroom and heard her vomiting. She hadn't even made it to the toilet in time. I opened the door slowly. "Tell me you're not pregnant." "Don't be stupid," she snapped. "I just went off the pill last week. This isn't morning sickness." "No, probably not," I said, watching her wipe her mouth. She glared. "You're really enjoying this, aren't you?" "Enjoying what?" I asked innocently. "My pain, my suffering." I knelt beside her and looked her in the eye. "Isabel, you're not my wife anymore. She disappeared the moment you climbed into bed with that monster. If you think I have any sympathy left, you're dreaming." She was still in bed when I got up the next morning to take Clara to school. Pale, clammy, sweating. I should have felt something: anger, sadness, grief. But I felt nothing. That afternoon, she called me. "I need you to drive me to the hospital," she said weakly. I didn't answer right away. "It's not just me. Adrian's worse. They say he had a stroke." I nearly laughed. "You're serious? You want me to take you to visit your lover?" "Marcus, this isn't the time for sarcasm," she pleaded. "He might die." For a moment, I almost said no. But then I realized if I refused, it might raise suspicions. So I agreed. She looked like hell when I picked her up, pale, shaking, barely able to stand. I helped her into the car and whistled all the way to the hospital. She cursed at me between shallow breaths. At the hospital, we encountered Adrian's wife, along with a few senior lawyers from the firm. including one named Victor Langstonone of the firm's managing partners. He pulled Isabel aside. "Isabel," Victor said in a low voice, "should you really be here? His wife is just over there." Ignoring me completely, she pleaded, "I just need to know if he's going to be okay. Please, Mr. Langston." Victor sighed, then waved me over. "Fine. I'll distract them. But be quick." I escorted Isabel into the ICU. Adrian looked awful. Half his face drooped, tubes everywhere, eyes half open but unblinking. She rushed to his bedside, clutched his hand, and whispered things I couldn't hear. She cried, kissed his forehead. I stayed by the door, stone-faced. A nurse entered a moment later. "Only family," she said. "Please, step out." Isabel was led away. I stayed. Adrian's eyes flicked toward me. He recognized me. He tried to speak, but nothing came. I leaned in close, just enough for him to hear. "I didn't take your advice, Adrian," I whispered. "I didn't accept your twisted deal," I fought back. His eyes widened. "I want you to know this was me. All of it. Your sushi nights, your special creamers. It was me. You're going to die, and I'm going to outlive you. Enjoy what's left." I stepped back as the heart monitor started beeping wildly. Doctors rushed in, and I disappeared into the hallway. Adrian survived the weekend, but only barely. By Monday morning, he was dead. Adrian West passed away just before dawn on Monday. Isabel was still in bed when I came home with Clara from daycare. Her skin looked worse ashen, almost waxy. Her breathing was shallow, and she barely moved when I opened the door. "He's gone," she murmured. "Adrian's gone." I didn't say anything. I just stood there. "You're going to gloat, aren't you?" she said bitterly, turning away. "You'll say this is what he deserved." "No, Isabel," I said quietly. "I'm not going to pretend I'm sad. That man destroyed our marriage. Whatever he doth earned." Her voice cracked, but the venom was still there. "Our marriage isn't destroyed. You always knew I'd come back to you." I laughed bitterly. "You're delusional." I stood there, watching you sob over him. You clung to his hand like he was your husband. You kissed him like I didn't exist. And now you want to pretend none of that matters? "It didn't change how I felt about you," she protested. "He was a means to an end." "No, Isabel. He was your choice. And you made it over and over again." I walked out, leaving her in the darkened room. By Friday, I had no choice. Her condition had worsened. She couldn't eat, could barely sit up. Her breathing rattled and her fingers trembled constantly. I drove her to the ER. Saturday morning, her doctor pulled me aside. Dr. Tully was his name, stern, analytical. "Mr. Lane," he said carefully, "your wife's organs are shutting down. Her kidneys are failing. We found abnormally high levels of mercury in her blood, along with another toxin-likely tetrodotoxin. These are rare, usually associated with seafood poisoning." I nodded slowly. She and her friend used to eat sushi regularly, every Thursday night. The doctor raised an eyebrow. "Was her friend also admitted?" "Adrian West?" I asked. "Yes. You treated him, didn't you? He died here on Monday." Dr. Tully was quiet for a moment. "That explains a lot. Their symptoms were similar, but his decline was more rapid. We assumed it was coincidental." "No," I said. "They shared everything." He glanced down at his clipboard. "Well, the prognosis is poor. We're doing what we can, but her body is shutting down." He led me into her room. Machines beeped around her. Her frame looked smaller, sunken into the hospital bed. Her eyes were half-lidded, lips dry and pale. When she saw me, she managed a faint smile. "You came." I stood at the foot of the bed, silent. "Marcus, I know I've done terrible things. I hurt you. I see that now." Her voice was barely above a whisper. "I need to know," she gasped. "Do you forgive me?" I walked slowly toward her, leaning in close. She closed her eyes, as if waiting for words of peace. "My dear wife," I whispered, "we vowed to love each other in sickness and in health. But you broke that vow the moment you chose him over me." She blinked, lips trembling. "You humiliated me, betrayed me, tried to take our daughter from me. I will never forgive you." A tear slid down her cheek. "I hope you and Adrian rot together." I turned and walked out of the room just as her heart monitor started to scream. Less than an hour later, they declared her dead. Telling Clara was the hardest thing I've ever done. She didn't understand, not fully, but she cried. And I cried too, though not for Isabel. I cried for what Clara had lost, for the mother she should have had. The hospital ruled it as food poisoning. They suspected bad seafood or contamination at a restaurant. No autopsy was ordered. No detectives came asking questions. Just paperwork and condolences. I burned the remaining creamer bottles, flushed the toxins, cleared her office desk myself, and removed the last bottle from her drawer just in case. I left no trace. When it came time to handle the funeral arrangements, I chose cremation. Her parents objected, said it went against family tradition. I didn't care. I wanted the body gone, permanently. With her ashes scattered and her secrets buried, I expected peace. But it wasn't enough. I needed answers and retribution. So I gathered every recording I had, hours of whispered conversations, veiled threats, casual confessions. I started with the one person who might have known more than she let on. Emma West, Adrian's widow. She lived in a pristine colonial just outside Lake Oswego. I showed up unannounced on a quiet Thursday morning. She welcomed me in without hesitation. "I was wondering when you'd come," she said calmly. "I came to talk about your husband and my wife," I began. "You can stop right there, Mr. Lane," she said, pouring tea. "I knew about them. I've known for months." I blinked. "You knew?" She nodded. "He was always reckless. I stopped trying to fix him a long time ago." "And you said nothing? What would you have had me do? He was a grown man. So was your wife." "No," I said sharply. "By doing nothing, you allowed it. You let him destroy 2 families. Maybe if you had stopped him, my daughter would still have a mother." Her eyes narrowed. "You think I'm responsible for your wife's choices?" "I think you're complicit, and I'll be naming you in my lawsuit against Adrian's estate." I stood, leaving her with her untouched tea and silence. That night, I made another decision. I wasn't finished, not until the law firm that enabled all of this paid too. Adrian was gone. Isabel was gone. But the law firm still stood untouched, polished, thriving. And I couldn't let that continue. They weren't innocent bystanders. Adrian had operated freely within those walls. Others knew Victor Langston most of all. I had the recording to prove it. It was a conversation I hadn't intended to capture on, caught by sheer luck from the pen recorder I planted in Isabel's purse. On the recording, Adrian and Victor were in Isabel's office. They discussed my resistance to their arrangement. They laughed about leveraging connections with judges, threatening me with custody loss and false charges if I didn't comply. Victor even bragged about knowing prosecutors who owed him favors. It was all there. Evidence of conspiracy, manipulation, coercion. My lawyer, Juliana Frost, listened to the file twice. When the second playthrough ended, she looked at me. "It's not a slam dunk in court," she said, "but it's damning, and it's enough to scare them." "Good," I said. "I want them scared." She arranged a meeting with the firm's senior partners, 7 of them, including Langston. We didn't tell them the reason for the meeting, just hinted it was about life insurance issues regarding Isabel's death. We arrived at their sleek downtown office on a rainy Monday afternoon. Mahogany walls, glass partitions, everything designed to impress. Victor Langston greeted us with a practiced smile. "Mr. Lane, Miss Frost, please come in." Inside the conference room, the other partners were already seated. All offered condolences for my loss. All assumed we were here to complain about paperwork. Mark Holden, the firm's managing partner, stood up. "Mr. Lane, we've reviewed your concerns. The insurance delay was a clerical issue, and I'm pleased to tell you it's been resolved. We're prepared to issue the full payout today." He slid an envelope across the table. A check for $600, clean, legitimate. I took it without a word, slipped it into my jacket pocket. "Thank you, Mr. Holden," I said. "But that's not why we're here." The room shifted. Faces tightened. Attention sharpened. "We're here to give your firm a chance to settle another matter," I continued. "Before we go public, before we file suit." Langston frowned. "Excuse me?" "Your firm was complicit in a conspiracy that ruined my family. Adrian West manipulated my wife into an affair, threatened me with fabricated legal consequences, and used this firm's resources to cover it all up." Holden scoffed. "You can't be serious." I locked eyes with him. "I have a recording, Mr. West and Mr. Langston discussing their plan. They mentioned judges, prosecutors, people they could weaponize against me, all while standing in your office." Langston turned pale. The other partners stared at him, waiting. He didn't deny it. Juliana reached into her bag, pulled out her phone, and hit play. The recording filled the room. Langston's voice, clear and unmistakable, chuckled as he talked about how easily they could bury the husband. Adrian chimed in, confident that I wouldn't fight back. They joked about judges being just a phone call away. When the recording ended, silence took over. Holden finally stood. "We need to confer privately." He ushered his partners out of the room, leaving Juliana and me alone. It was almost 30 minutes before he returned. His tone was different this time. Heavy, measured. "What are your demands?" he asked. I didn't hesitate. "Your firm will pay my daughter and me $5 million. You'll expel Mr. Langston under a moral conduct clause and strip him of at least 90% of his equity. We won't pursue Adrian's estate. In exchange, I'll sign a non-disclosure agreement and keep this quiet." Holden inhaled deeply. "Give us 2 days." "You have 2 days," Juliana said flatly. "After that, we go public, and the fallout won't be kind." We walked out of that building as quietly as we had entered. 2 days later, Juliana called me. Her voice was calm but triumphant. They agreed. The firm would wire $5 million to a trust, set up for Clara and me. Langston was being removed, his shares forfeited. No court, no trial, no headlines, just silence and justice. I signed the non-disclosure and cashed the check. Isabel had been right about one thing. Her betrayal did secure our future just, not in the way she imagined. The money changed everything. No more scrambling for bills, no more calculating grocery budgets. I paid off the house, upgraded Clara's school, and started setting aside money for her college fund. But what mattered most was time. Time with Clara. Time to heal. Time to rediscover what joy felt like again. And somewhere in the midst of all that, I met someone.